Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rene Plays Games podcast. I apologize, this episode's going up a little late for the usual Tuesday releases, but I didn't have a design diaries ready. I started making one for a game that I am working on, but it's way down the line, and I have a few other games that I really need to get out first, and instead, I'm going to do 2 episodes of something that I was going to do just for the bonus episode next week, starting now, and then I'll put another episode out, because I'm gonna need more than one session to feel this one out. And if you know me, and if you started listening to this podcast when it first came out, or a year in, you know one of my favorite solo TTRPGs is Ironsworn. I will always go back to Ironsworn, and right now on the Ironsworn Discord, Shawn Tomkin has released some playtest materials for what is called Ironsworn Legacies. It is effectively the second edition of Ironsworn, and I figure I'm going to playtest it. I'm going to test it out with the docs that he has released for the Discord people to test out and feel out and see how it goes. So let's go ahead and just go through what's out so far and start feeling out Ironsworn Legacies and see what's different from Ironsworn and Ironsworn Starforged and Sundered Isles and the new ideas that are coming into Legacies here. Before I dive right into just making a character and starting to play, right now what is available for folks who want to playtest this. Again, if you go to the Ironsworn Discord, you can find a whole channel and thread about it. There is a very short and, testable core reference, which is the engine, the procedures of the game, the moves that Ironsworn works off of. They're a little bit different than the original Ironsworn and stuff, and we'll get into that when we start playing. There is the Action Codex, which is a systems thing. So like for fights or for journeys or for interacting and things like that, different types of actions and the sub systems that are going to be used when doing those things. There's also an encounter codex. So this is a very small, but totally doable list of encounters that you may run into in Ironsworn Legacies. So right now there's beasts and undead. So we'll be fighting one of those, presumably in this playtest. And then, character sheet and some resources and cards and things like that. So oddly, one of the things that is not included are any asset cards, since they are additive. Shawn wants the early playtesting to be without them to identify narrative and mechanical gaps that they will fill. So this playtest is not going to have my character with any assets. So that could be paths or, companions or, magic or anything like that. That's going to be included in the game. There's going to be a lot more, as noted in these playtest materials. But we're just going to be starting as a general, concept of an Ironlander, and we're going to feel out how the mechanics work as presented for this evolution of Ironsworn, which is really exciting. So now I guess we can start building a character. To create a character, I've got the character sheet here. It does look a little bit different. We have some different things going on. We still have momentum as a track. Now there's a big track called boons over to the side, and the approaches are the same. We still have edge, heart, iron, shadow, and wits. And the first thing we're going to do is assign our approaches. That is going to be the usual array of 1+3, 2+2s, and 2+1s. So I'm trying to think of the characters that I've made for my 2 Sundered Isles campaigns, but this is an Ironsworn game in its original setting and flavor, so it's very kind of Viking, northern, cold, boreal, mountainous, snowy regions. So I'm going to build a character a little bit differently. I'm probably going to make the same mistake I always make and have heart low, so you know what? To avoid that, I'm not going to make heart my strongest stat, but I'm going to lock in a 2 for heart now, because I always end up shorting myself on heart for the purposes of swearing vows and whatnot. And let's see, I don't think this character is going to be very shadow based. This is going to be a 1 in shadow. I think that they're also going, you know what? I'm going to put a 1 in wits too. I'm going to play against type here, and I'm going to make a 3 in iron, 2 in edge, 2 in heart, 1 in shadow, 1 in wits. I'm making a very straightforward character. Maybe not the smartest person, certainly not a subtle person or deceptive person here in the Ironlands. My approach is iron. I have a strong, physical, upfront, durable build. I mean well. I have a 2 in heart. I think everybody knows that I want to protect probably my village. We'll see what the backstory that emerges from this is. And a 2 in edge also says that I'm quite just physically capable. So Shadow and Witch being my 1s is very not my usual style. So let's see how this plays out. Next, we're just going to set our starting momentum to 2 as usual. And we're going to set our max momentum to +10. We're going to set our tier to 0. And tier is a new thing in Ironsworn Legacies. This is effectively your character's like notoriety in the world, or I guess reputation. It says here in the legacy section of the playtest materials that when we mark legacy, that is going to be, it's always a 12-step clock, and you can mark and clear legacy based on certain results of certain actions or parts of approaches and, quests and things like that, vows. But as you fill this up, when you fill up 12 segments of your legacy, you will increase your tier, and that will make you more known around the world, in the world of the game. And so tier is something that's going to basically represent how accomplished and known you are. So that's pretty cool. And other things for character creation we have here are all impacts are unmarked. So that is health, spirit, and supply tracks. Instead of being out of 5 now, there are actually quite a few where there's 3 for minor harm to these. So for health, harmed would be marking 3, and that would be a minor wound, and then stressed for spirit, rationed for supply, and they get worse as they go down, right? So if you're filling more and more of these impacts, you are really, really hurting, and we'll talk about the mechanical implications of those when they come up. The other thing is our starting position is favored. Now, this is a big change to Ironsworn. It's taking a little bit of inspiration from the Forged in the Dark, the Blades in the Dark style games, where now for roles, there will be a position. There are 3 positions in Ironsworn, much like Forged in the Dark games. The 3 positions are desperate, pressured, and favored. And again, like these Forged in the Dark games, these positions matter when it comes to determining or interpreting the outcome of your rolls when you make them in the game. So for example, if you roll and get a strong hit, then it is a complete success. You're going to get 1 advantage, which we'll talk about in a minute. It's a new way of basically you get advantages and disadvantages to have to use, that you need to choose certain outcomes from lists of advantages and disadvantages. But depending on your position, if your position is favored, you'll get an additional advantage. However, or you can gain position. If you're already favored, you gain a momentum. But if you were in a desperate position, say, then you gain misfortunes and things like that, depending on the result of your roll, right? So if it's a weak hit and you were in a desperate position, you have to take a misfortune. Sorry, I said disadvantage. It is misfortune. So if your position is favored, you get an advantage on a weak hit. If your position is desperate, you get a misfortune, meaning there is a complication, right? Because you were in a desperate position to begin with. You get what you want, but it was desperate. There's going to be some issues with that roll. But we are starting with a favored position, which is really good. It allows us to hopefully build up some momentum and some advantages, at the beginning of this game to hopefully not put us in really, really rough situations right off the jump. I think, I could be wrong, but I believe Ironsworn, the original setting as Shawn has designed it, and how it played compared to Starforged and Sundered Isles, it's a little harsher, and I think that's by design. I think that's the intent. The setting, the world of Ironsworn is certainly a lot harsher and grittier and more difficult than, say, a space game where technology has gotten to the point where a certain level of comfort is probably expected, or, Sundered Isles where it's maybe a little more magical or at least more technologically advanced again. So the Ironsworn OG, this flavor, I think is meant to be a little more difficult. So we'll see. We'll see how that plays. All right. So the next step of character creation says to envision your character as you like. This playtest does not include character assets, but I'm going to go out and pull out the Lodestar reference guide from the original Ironsworn, and I'm going to roll on some tables just to get an idea of what our character might be like. Again, there's other people doing playtests out there. Steve Morrison, Errant Adventures, guest on this show, interview guest, has done a few episodes, I think, of his Ironsworn one, which is very classic Steve Morrison rolls in that one. So I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to roll a D100 on the character roll table of the Oracle from Lodestar, and I get an 83, which says, oh, this is perfect for the build that we've gone with. I'm a hunter. My character is a hunter. Let's just go ahead and maybe I'll roll on character goal or descriptor just for fun. I got an 89 that time. So that could be, my goal could be find redemption. The descriptor could be old. I don't think my character is old. So we're going to go with find redemption as the goal of this character. And I'm just going to go ahead and roll on Ironlander names. It looks like there is just a couple D100 lists. So let's go ahead and see what we get. 35. Ooh, Tessa. Okay. Ooh, all right. So I am a female Ironlander who is, very... The approaches, the description of Iron are things like aggressive and strong, right? So that's kind of interesting. I think that maybe she's like a shieldmaiden. Oh, that's fun. I kind of like that. I think that I'm playing maybe a strong shieldmaiden-like woman of a tribe. Let's go ahead and roll on a settlement, and we'll get the starting location, I guess, for this. I'm going to, again, use the tables here. There is a settlement oracle, so we're going to just go ahead and roll a D100 again, see what we get. 54, so that puts us somewhere here. It says it's named after a historical event, so I get a roll again, and I get a 93, which says Rockfall. Okay. All right, so at some point, an enormous landslide, or maybe even just a broken off piece of like cliff just fell, and there's a huge intact piece of stone that is like jutting up. Maybe it's at the foothills of something, and like maybe it's so far out from where it could have possibly fallen that no one understands where this rock fell from. But it's just clearly has fallen and embedded itself into the ground, and there's a settlement built up around it. Let's go ahead and roll on settlement trouble. 61 says, ooh, okay, this might work for find redemption. Urgent expedition. Okay, why would we need to go on an urgent expedition? Maybe there's a failure. Again, my character is a hunter. She is a strong, competent fighter, right? Maybe there was something that went wrong on a previous expedition, and we lost people. And maybe there's a really scary. Could it have been a storm? Could it have been something that nobody understands? And when we all came out of it, we were scattered. We'd lost people. We had no idea what was going on. Those of us who found one another hurried back to town, settlement, Rockfall, thinking, if this ever happens, we reconvene. And we found out that we've lost some people, and now there's going to be an urgent expedition to go find people who did not return. You know what? That's going to be it. We're going to be rescuing somebody. Let's roll a D100 for the character we're going to be saving. A couple D100s. Here goes. The first one being a 19. Ooh, they're an outcast. Oh, this wasn't something that went wrong. This is somebody who escaped. Outcast of society might also mean that like they never felt like they belonged, but I also love the idea that this might be somebody that maybe they were supposed to be transported somewhere and got away, or something else got them out. Interesting. Okay. And then we're going to roll just on like their descriptor, which is a 52. Cautious. Makes sense. What was their goal? Not that we need to know right off the bat, but 83 says gain knowledge. Okay. All right. This makes sense. I think that oh, yeah, this is classic. This was somebody who probably communed with or made contact with or somehow experienced something of, there's no, if you noticed, there's no truths yet for Ironsworn Legacies. There would absolutely be a Session 0 or Session 1 truth building, right? Where we choose the things about our world that are true. This feels like somebody who tapped into maybe some ancient magic or some god voices, right? They're an outcast, they're weird, and they were becoming more trouble or something than they were worth, maybe. Or you know what? Maybe we even do this. Maybe we're not going to find them. We're just going to keep revising this. We're going to find it. We're going to find it all together. This is an outcast who has come into Rockfall, and they claim they have spoken with a god, or they have divined things through ancient magics, and the leadership of Rockfall cannot refute the things that this person coming into the town is saying. So Tessa is going to be one of maybe a few Ironlanders from Rockfall who are going to escort this outcast individual to a place that they say they need to go, but they need help getting there. And the people of Rockfall are going to help see them to it. And that is going to be our quest. That's perfect. It's just an escort quest of a cautious, maybe, struggling individual. They're probably stressed. They're probably not sure what's coming and going through their head, but they know that they must do something. And we're going to escort them and protect them to get there. And we're obviously going to be going to some very cool nearby site that we will build as we get there. What is this character's name? What is this outcast's name? 19 says Farina. Okay, so Tessa is escorting Farina to a remote location. What could this remote location be? We're not going to worry about that right now. I'm not rolling way ahead of time. We're going to roll to play the game and get there. You know what? Maybe Farina doesn't even know where it is they're going. Maybe they've seen flashes and glimpses of it in their dreams, and they wake up in a cold sweat and they just kind of babble what seems to be like nonsense to the rest of us, and they can't ever get the details about this place right. They just get vibes or feelings about it communicated to them somehow. And we're going to start in media res on the road. Let's go ahead. It says to envision a situation and there's some examples here. Well, I rolled for it. That's fine. Then we're going to swear an iron vow or not. If you feel this mission is worthy of a quest or perhaps even an iron vow, we should undertake a quest procedure. Yeah, we're absolutely doing that. I think that Tessa is absolutely going to swear an iron vow as a member of this expedition force to the people of Rockfall and to Farina to see them through. So let's go ahead and read the rules about how that works in Ironsworn Legacies. Now, this could be our background vow, which it doesn't say anything about doing for this playtest, but background vows are always going to be epic, so that's really big, slow progress to that. I think that I will just make this a formidable quest. It says, do you swear an iron vow to see this done? If so, mark it as a sworn quest. We will do that. If unsure of the rank, we're going to make it formidable. We're going to do that. And let's see, where is the swear a vow move? Oh, it looks like there's no longer a swear an iron vow move, unless I'm missing something, where it looks like you just mark this quest as a sworn quest and you advance it as you reach milestones. So that's interesting. And then again, so because this is a formidable quest, we're going to mark 1 box of progress per milestone. And then when we believe we've reached the end of it, we can resolve the quest by rolling our challenge dice against the progress that we've made. Okay. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is begin the journey. So we're going to start with the take on a challenge procedure. It says when you face a lengthy effort, hazardous encounter, or complex task, we're going to name the challenge, give it a progress track, formidable. We're going to just tie this in. This is going to be the same thing. This is going to be called See Farina to her dream vision. And we're going to confront the challenge. So we're going to take action and make some rolls. And if we go to the Journey Codex, it says here the Navigate Overland is a big one, right? That's a major core action of journeys. So we're going to roll that first, and we're going to see what happens. This uses wits. Of course I picked the one, and I put a 1 in wits. Tessa is not an overland traveler. I guess I should have put a higher 1 in wits if she is a hunter, but here we are. All right, so we are going to navigate overland. We are starting in a favored position, and we are going to head out from Rockfall. We're going to be rolling plus wit, so this is +1 on our d6 versus 2d10. Classic Ironsworn. And, oof, That's a start. That is a 3 on my roll versus a 2 and a 6 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So let's see how this plays out with the new mechanics of Ironsworn Legacies. So, under resolving an action, it says on a weak hit, it is a costly success. You get 1 advantage and 1 misfortune. If your position is favored, then you gain an additional advantage. I did not tempt fate, which is a thing that you can do. So tempting fate says, does your intent, risk, or method suggest high stakes outcome? If so, you're tempting fate, and that's going to add additional complications to what you get, right? So if I tempted fate on this, then we would get an advantage and a misfortune again and lose position if we tempted fate. We did not, so we're getting 2 advantages and 1 misfortune. Our position does not change. So if you look, there is 2 lists, gain advantage and suffer misfortune. So the suggested advantage is to mark challenge progress in the Journey Codex. So we'll definitely do that one to fill 1 box. We are on our way to getting Farina where she needs to go. The other things we can do is for 1 advantage, we can gain momentum. We can overcome setbacks, and then there's actually ones that cost even more. So you might need 2 or even 3 advantages to get some of these, like mending minor impacts, or finding opportunities, or making discoveries, which is really cool. I like how that is now a thing, because I tended to make discoveries probably too much. Then there's the suffer misfortune tables. So when you fail or pay a cost, assign misfortunes. Each dot represents 1 misfortune. So things I can do is mark impacts, lose momentum, face a setback. A complication blocks your progress. To move forward, you have to take action and overcome a setback. That seems like an interesting one. Increase tension. That one would be add or mark a 4-segment tension timer. Ooh, once you mark the last segment, encounter a peril. Ooh, I like this one. This one's fun. So I'm going to start a 4-segment clock and increase the tension. And I'm also going to gain momentum. I could make 2 challenge progress, but I'm going to move my momentum up to 3 because momentum is always helpful. We're going to mark 1 progress on the vow and the track there. And we're going to start a 4-segment timer for increased tension. I love that one. That's cool. I like how this comes with like counting advantages and misfortunes is something that my brain really likes. If you've heard me talk about my game that I've been designing for a long time, Gardens of Rust, there is it matters what the margin is. And that almost feels like this, right? You're starting to tally up goods and bads that you need to use in certain ways. So the initial onset of this expedition out of Rockfall is going well. The day is moving. We are making progress through the Ironlands to get Farina where she needs to go. Now, that was a weak hit, so there is some tension that is just building. I think the further we get away from the settlement, it is known that the Ironlands are dangerous. So I think that we're going to go ahead and, it might have been smarter to face a setback, right? Because then it kind of sets up your next roll regardless. But I think that let's go ahead and say that we still have a little bit of time for the day. I think that maybe we should roll to find inspiration or fellowship. I think rolling heart right here seems good because maybe it's something where this tension is starting to be palpable among the small group of people. You know what? I'm going to roll a d6 real quick. How many people left with Farina? 4. Okay, so Tessa and 3 other Rockfall folks, aka red shirts for the purposes of this, if I roll poorly, are heading to wherever it is that this outcast seer person is trying to go. And they can give us vague feelings of this direction. I know it's this way. But this tension is already palpable. This is going to be an awkward expedition and trip if we don't do this right. So I think that Tessa is going to try and break the ice and find some fellowship while we just travel. And that's going to be a heart roll. So let's see how this goes. I'm using the same dice from my Ironsworn second series. So let's see how this goes. Ooh, that's a huge roll. Okay, that is a 5 + 2 for heart for a 7 versus a 2 and a 1 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. Interesting. Okay, so this actually goes well. I think Tessa maybe tries to bring in the outcast. I think maybe puts her big arm. I think that she's a very tall woman, Tessa, and she's built well. She's very strong. She's here with maybe another woman and 2 men who regularly go out hunting together. They have a really good rapport, and it's just this outcast who's maybe feeling a little awkward, and especially because of these visions and things that keep plaguing her, it only reinforces this I don't belong here kind of thing. And Tessa just throws her big arm around her and just goes like, hey, like, look at you, like, you know, this is amazing, you know, like, tell us more about this, like, when did this start? And she's just trying to break the ice and break the tension a little bit. So we rolled that with heart and we get a strong hit. So the suggested advantage is to mend a minor impact, so you'd be able to like reduce spirit damage that you've taken from other losses, but because it's a strong hit, we get one advantage. Because our position is favored, we get an additional advantage, and so that puts 2. We could, you know, this might be find an opportunity. I think finding an opportunity sounds like a good idea, maybe here, and we can roll, there's stuff here in the Journey Codex. Oh, there's even Journey Misfortunes here that are separate. That's cool. Maybe I'll use that next time. That's my bad. But what we can do is on Journey Advantages, we have 2. So I'm gonna say we're actually making progress, right? Because maybe, well, I don't know if we're gonna make progress on getting there. Let's see what we can find. I think I'm gonna spend 2 to find an opportunity. It says a promising occurrence or insight offers leverage. Once only, if you take action and act on the opportunity, set your position to favored and add +1. And then there is a D100 list here for finding an opportunity. So let's go ahead and roll that. I get a 7, which says Vantage Point. Oh, that's actually perfect for helping us find where we're supposed to go. Okay, maybe we can use this opportunity to get +1 to a roll here when we're taking action. Scouting a path here makes sense from the Vantage Point. That uses wits, but we're going to get +1 to it, so we're adding +2 to this roll, and let's see if we can find out anything new. That is a 6 versus a 6 and a 7 on the challenge dice for a miss. Oh boy. Okay. So we spent both advantages from that building fellowship part of it to get to a part where we can look out over a great vista and feel good about we're doing this. And hey, you got us. We're going to get you there and you don't have to worry about it. Like, we're here to protect you. You don't worry about it. And I think that when we get to this vantage point and we're looking out over it, I think maybe the 4 hunters of Rockfall are looking out over a glorious vista, beautiful northern Ironlands, just absolutely gorgeous landscapes, definitely treacherous and dangerous, but the nature of these hunters is that they're open to the challenge. But maybe this view, oh no, it does something to Farina, and I think that they realize something, and maybe they're going to have one of their visions here. So we're going to, it says here, on a miss, failure or lost ground, you get 1 misfortune. We lose position, so our position goes from favored to pressured now, and we're going to have to suffer a misfortune. Now, in the Journey Codex, there are Journey Misfortunes. We can mark impacts, maybe face setbacks, or encounter a peril. Encountering a peril seems pretty high up on the list. Yeah, that would actually require 2 misfortunes, so we can't do that one. We can increase the tension and mark a segment of that clock. That could be worth it. Or we can face a setback. I'm going to roll a D100 on face a setback and see what it says. And if I'm not crazy about it, maybe we'll just increase the tension to face a peril in the near future. That is a 22. Face a setback for 22 would say violent storm. I'm not crazy about that one because I don't want to worry about weather. Maybe we can see it. You know what? We'll combo this. We can see a storm raging not far in the distance. And maybe that makes us realize that we need to get somewhere we can camp quickly. Now we're pressured, and I think Farina is maybe having a vision of like, oh no, like it's beyond all of this dangerous stuff. Like, I don't know if I can handle this. The tension is rising. This is all working so well to like combo itself. So we are already halfway to this potentially having to face a peril. And now I'm going to have to roll again, take another action to, there's actually a move at speed action. And I think that Tessa, again, kind of like puts her arm around Farina and just goes like, hey, we got this. Come on. We're going to have to pick up the pace a little bit to get somewhere where we can safely hunker down for camp tonight. So we're going to roll plus edge to move at speed. And we get a huge roll there. That is a 6 on the action die versus a 5 and a 3 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. A strong hit, we are in pressured position. So let's read this. It says on a strong hit, complete success, +1 advantage. So we get that. We don't get the additional advantage because we weren't in a favored position, but our position goes up. So we get to move it back to favored. We caught this early enough and we're able to get moving, get going fast. Our one advantage is definitely going to be to make progress on our vow up to 2. And then we are going to, maybe should we just make camp now? Now that is an approach that we can make multiple things with. There is no rules for make camp yet in the game. It's referencing a page that doesn't exist, and I'm not too worried about it. We don't have any impacts yet. So I think that we could just call that, fine if and when we decide to hunker down for the night. I do think maybe I should roll something to find a safe spot to make camp. You know what? There is a sort of oracle here that I will roll. There's a journey oracle. So I'm going to roll twice on, we're going to say descriptor focus. So here goes. That's a 51. Says, ooh, flooded. Okay. And 10. Flooded wood. Okay, we get down there. There is a storm raging in the distance, but maybe it's a time of year where some melt is happening, and all of this snow melt is actually causing quite a lot of runoff and melt water to kind of flood this low wooded section, right? There are these big buttressed roots, and there is like waterlogged soils and sections of standing water where every footfall is kind of squelching into what is becoming muddy substrate, and we definitely can't make camp here. So I'm going to roll one more time before we make camp. Since there isn't a make camp roll, I'm going to just roll. We're going to do this with edge. It's going to be called quote unquote outrun a danger, but I think that what we're really doing is getting somewhere before it's too late to keep moving. And boy, did I just get so lucky. I rolled a 1 on my action die plus 2 for a 3, but there is a 2 on one of my challenge dice for a weak hit. So that is going to be plus 1 advantage, plus 1 misfortune, plus 1 advantage because we're favored, 2 advantages, 1 misfortune. That was an opportunity to potentially tempt fate, but I don't think that was there. So let's go ahead and choose 2 advantages. It's going to be marking progress for 1 for sure. And then we're going to have a second advantage. I think we're going to, that's going to be overcoming a setback maybe, to find camp, we'll call that. And then our misfortune is going to be, I think this is an appropriate time to maybe mark an impact. There's a nice table here that says impact target. We're going to roll a d10 and get 5. So this is personal to spirit. So we're going to roll a spirit impact, roll another d10 and get a 4, which says, oh, gloomy weather. How perfect. And we're going to mark an impact to our spirit. So that's going to be on the character sheet. There's, like I said before, instead of there being 5 tallies for health, spirit, and supply now, there are tallies of, let's see, it goes 3, 2, 1, 1, 1. So what is that? That's 8 total now, except basically as you fill these in and whole sections get filled, then you're dealing with more impacts. So I'm going to mark 1 stressed box on spirit. I believe that is the correct way to do it. And we're going to say that we make camp for the night, wake up, and we have more to go tomorrow. So we are still journeying. I don't want this episode to be too long. I'm going to do 2 of these just to kind of feel out the new Ironsworn Legacies. But what I do want to do is basically maybe end on a cliffhanger for the Facing a Peril. So let's go ahead and continue making these journey actions. We're going to roll plus wits to navigate overland on day 2, making our way in the correct direction. And oof, that's how you start a day right there, is a miss against a 5 and a 9 on the challenge dice, just a 4 on the action dice. So I can't even, well, I don't have enough momentum to begin with anyway. So we're starting the day navigating overland. And I think that after everything, Farina is kind of having a hard time orienting themselves to where she needs to go. And I think that maybe it's getting to these other hunters, and Tessa is trying her best to just keep everyone on task. But on a miss, it says failure or lost ground. So we're going to get a misfortune. And we didn't do any of these other things, so we're just going to lose a position. So we just have to take 1 misfortune. And that's obviously going to be increasing the tension to bring it to 3 out of 4 already, and putting our position at pressured. So we're having a hard time navigating overland. We're getting a little frustrated. We've gone down from that high vantage point, and maybe we've lost a little bit of where we thought we were going to be able to go scouting that path. We thought, oh, this looks like a safe path, but then we realized it's wetter than we thought. So now we have to go around. We're reorienting ourselves. We're finding new paths to have to go. And I think that there is a move here. There's a forage, hunt, or scavenge. We're going to wait to do that. I think that maybe nimbly traverse precarious ground is going to be the one that we're going to have to do, and that is plus edge. So we're getting +2 to this roll. Ooh, I got a 6 on the die for an 8 total. So that is going to be a strong hit against a 2 and a 7 on the challenge dice. We are going to gain position, and we're back to favored, and we're going to get a +1 advantage. So I'm going to mark challenge progress up to 4 out of 10. So it's already potentially doable, but we have a little ways more to go. And I think that we are making our way there. Obviously, we can't just get there easily. It's got to come with a challenge. So we're going to, maybe that storm is, you know what, let's ask the Oracle. Let's find the Ask the Oracle section of Ironsworn Legacies, and we'll roll that to see if maybe we can find out if that storm is like on our tail or not. So here's the Ask the Oracle section. It works just like, I think, old Ironsworn, if I'm not mistaken. It says, decide what's interesting and important, ask simple questions. If it's a yes, no. So I'm going to say, yeah, it's a yes, no. And I think it's likely that that storm has not gone away. So what we're going to do is we're just going to roll a D100, and we're going to say that the storm is right on our tail if it is 75 or less. And I rolled a 9, so it is right on our tail, and we're going to have to outrun a danger again with edge, back-to-back edge rolls. Oh my gosh! And I got a 1 on the action die, +2 for a 3 against a 3 and a 2 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. That is crazy. So we still get a weak hit out of this, so we are going to get an advantage and a misfortune and an additional advantage because it was a weak hit. So obviously we know what this is going to be. We're going to mark progress on our journey as we have found a new way through. We've beaten the storm. It forced us to have to like move fast, right? And so we were moving fast. We mark progress with one of our advantages. We're going to gain momentum with the other up to +4 momentum. And we are going to take a misfortune, which is filling this box. Now our speed came with a cost. We are moving. Farina, maybe not as good a shape as the rest of us, and huffing and puffing behind us, kind of like holding us. I think Tessa even maybe picks her up at one point and is just running with her, but we're making a lot of noise as we are running through these lowlands, trying to find the direction where she is trying to go, and we're going to have to face a peril. Oh boy. So we are going to go to the Fight Codex, and probably the Encounter Codex as well. There are 2 encounters here. There is Elder Beast and there is Undying. So I think I'm just going to roll even odd on that. But let's go over the Fight Codex real quick. It says, when there are no other options, when the sword slips free of its sheath, when the arrow is knocked, when the shield is brought to bear, prepare to fight. This is, we're going to take on a challenge, which works a little differently than taking action and undertaking a quest. With the quest, we're marking progress towards overcoming it with a roll against the progress of that quest. Challenges are the same way. It's different terminology, but as far as I can tell, it functions very similar to how other Ironsworn games have in the past. We're going to take actions to make progress against the rank of whatever it is we are up against. And we are going to have setbacks and challenges that stay in the way of progress, so we have to deal with those things. In the Fight Codex, it says, the default scope for a fight, take on a challenge to see what happens. We're going to, if it's a minor fight that is just kind of like hand wavy, you can just take action to resolve it with a single roll. We're going to take on a challenge with a challenging fight. Then you have to name the objective. Okay, so I think that maybe first I'm going to roll even odd to see if we're up against an Elder Beast or an Undying. I think odd will be Elder Beast, even will be Undying. And that is a 10, so that is even, so it is an Undying. Oh boy, that is interesting. So we are running away from this storm when we're making a lot of noise, and maybe we stop to catch our breath, and we hear the sounds of maybe rattling armor or something similar. And as hunters, our defenses are raised, our hackles are raised. We're worried. What does that mean? We're on the lookout now for potentially other hunters, other settlements, other people, other Ironlanders. It says if an encounter with an undying being is triggered, let's see, then it begins on favorable terms. If it's a negative circumstance, such as when you encounter a peril, then it's initially antagonistic or malevolent. Okay, so we're not going to worry about their starting disposition. It is malevolent. They are definitely coming for our life force. Let's go ahead and roll a D100 for the Undying's form. 30. Rotting, decaying flesh, putrid stench. Oh yeah, this makes sense. So let's see, then we can decide how many there are. Oh, this is fun. There's just a lot of tables. This is good. I rolled a 74. There is a gathering, several entities drawn by a common fate. Yes. Now, is it our life essence, or is it something about Farina? We're not sure. Maybe we'll have to ask the Oracle about that. And let's see. We can roll 2 more times, I think, just for fun. The need of this. Oh, actually, we can't figure that out. We have to get that with an advantage. We can find out its need when we gain advantage, so that's cool. And for inspiration, we can roll for their tactics if we suffer misfortune. Oh, that's cool. All right, cool. So we're not going to roll on those yet, and we're just going to move into fighting. So with this, I think our objective is going to be to oppose the enemy. Enemies have objectives in fight. You can take on a challenge to oppose their goal or prevail to defeat them. Yeah, it's going to be one of those, right? I think that we're going to say that we're going to put this at the rank of, we're just going to go dangerous for this because I don't want it to be too crazy. So we'll mark 2 boxes of progress per gain advantage. I need to get used to the terminology here. So we're going to gain 2 boxes for every gain of progress. And yeah, so, okay, well, we got some more things to roll on just for fun here. We are running through beating the storm. What is our fight environment? It is, 93. That's huge. Unnatural foes. Yeah, okay, that's accurate. Okay. Oh, unnatural forces, it says. There's unnatural forces here. Mystic energies, corruption, eldritch monuments. Oh, and we were very close to cursed ground. But I think the unnatural forces works maybe more with Farina. I think that maybe as Tessa's carrying her and everyone's rushing forward to beat the storm, maybe we run into a copse of trees or something like that, a small grove, a small wood along, a valley slope. And we run in there and Farina just kind of yells and goes, no, turn around, you must turn around. But by the time we turn around, there is the gathering of undead. All right, now there are fight actions. They're very similar to what we're going to do, so we're just going to roll right into it. Tessa is going to put down Farina and tell one of the other members of the crew to hold her, watch her, as she and 2 others are going to go into combat. We won't worry about what those 2 others are doing. We are just going to fight with Tessa, and we are obviously going to run right up. We are going to draw the weapon that we have, which we have not said what it is yet. Let's go with... Let's say it's a maul. Let's say it's a huge hammer-like weapon. I don't know if it is a hammer. Maybe it's like a huge shoulder ball joint bone of like a whale or something like that. So it's like this huge, just bludgeoning weapon. And she wields it and is going to rush in. And we are going to fight up close to overpower our foe, rolling with iron, which is our +3. And we get a 6 versus a 3 and a 1 for a strong hit. So we are in favored position, so we just get to start right off. I think she puts down Farina and just goes like, all right, this is why we came. And she rushes forward and just swings this thing and just cracks a rotting skull off of one of the heads of these undead. We get 1 advantage, a 2nd advantage because we are favored. We are not tempting fate. I got to remember to do that, although I don't think this is what we would do. We're going to mark 2 progress, and then we are going to go to that encounter codex, and I want to, when you gain an advantage, I'm going to find out what it is that these undead seem to need. As Tessa just like cracks the head off of one of these things and it crumbles, she sees that they are moving in a specific direction. So let's roll a D100 and see what it is that they might be attempting to do. That is a 23. Feed an insatiable hunger. Oh, it's that straightforward. Okay. I think that she sees their jaws kind of like unhinging and they're just like way too big, and maybe their teeth, like the bones of their teeth are even carved to be sharp. And she calls out a warning. Do not let them bite you. I guess we're going to keep taking our fight actions here. So we can keep doing this where we're fighting to overpower our foe, but there's other things we can do as well. Dodge or evade, gain favorable ground, rally others. You know what? Maybe we can rally others just for fun for a second thing. She calls us out and she just says like, take off the heads. And we're going to roll plus heart. That is another 6 on the die, +2 for heart, but there is an 8 on one of the challenge dice. This makes it a weak hit. So we are not tempting fate with this. We're going to take 2 advantages and 1 misfortune. We'll say that calling that out, one of the other folks takes off a head and we're going to make progress. So that's one of our 2 advantages. We are going to gain some momentum, I think, up to 5. And then our misfortune that we're going to take is, let's go ahead and face a setback, maybe. Maybe they change their tactics. That is going to be something that we're going to do here. We're going to roll a D100 on the tactics table. And we get a 91. Taunt with past fears and regrets. Ooh, interesting. And you know what? I think this is targeting all of them. I think that maybe they go into almost like reenactments. It's actually really creepy to watch them lunge for the hunters and the protectors from Rockfall that are escorting Farina through the Ironlands. And they were running, and now they kind of all fall back. And then a few of them, they just begin, they can't make sounds, right? But they begin reenacting certain things. And the way that they're doing it, each person here is looking around and recognizes the motions and the movements of these for maybe very, very impactful moments from their life. Here we go. This is going to be a huge one. For Tessa, we said that her character goal was to find redemption. They are reenacting something that she finds is a great shame to her. I think that I'm going to have to roll for this. I think that I'm going to have to resist. This says resist pain or fatigue is iron. I think that I'm resisting something like that. I think I'm going to have to resist with wits. I'm just going to roll a d6 plus 1 versus 2d10 to resist wits. And I get a weak hit. I think that she recognizes this for what it is and realizes they should not know that. She hears Farina scream and yell, no, don't make me relive this. No. And I think one of her friends too is just like, how do you know this? And he's swinging his sword or spear or what have you, to attack them recklessly, maybe even dangerously. On this weak hit, we're going to get an advantage and a misfortune. So we're going to suffer a misfortune. I think that I'm going to ramp up the stress, take a second stress impact, because this is terrifying to Tessa. And we're almost filling our first 3 boxes of spirit, which I'll have to look up what that means. But then we're going to take an advantage as well. And I think that with this advantage, she understands the tactics. That's what we used it for last time. Maybe this time it's to overcome a setback. And she says, it doesn't matter how they know. They're still just skeletons. And she's going to attack one, rolling with iron. And wow, I'm rolling very low on my challenge dice. They're being very nice to me today. So that is a 6. So that is a strong hit. We are still favored somehow. So we're going to gain momentum because we're already favored. So we're up to 6 momentum and we get 2 advantages. So we're going to make progress up to 6. And we'll take a second advantage, which I think will be to mend a minor impact. Oh, I can't do that. That's 2. Shoot. See, this is how they get you. So, you know what? I think that maybe we gain a little bit more momentum. We're going to bring our momentum up to 7 as Tessa this is supposed to instill fear. And it did for a moment, but then she got angry and she's convincing the others to get angry as well. And we're going to probably make one more roll on this. We're at 6 progress. Let's go ahead and say, we're going to roll to muster courage. That's going to be what she does here. She's going to yell, they're still just skeletons. She's going to take the head off of another and scatter their bones. And she's going to roar. And this is going to muster the courage of the other hunters. And another strong hit. Oh my gosh. So we're going to gain another momentum up to 8. Wow, we're getting very lucky. That was a 4 on the action die plus 2 for a 6 versus a 3 and a 2. I've yet to get doubles, though. I'd like to get doubles. I'd like to know how that plays. So, mustering the courage, we're going to, again, mark progress up to 8 as one of the others snaps out of it and starts breaking apart more skeletons. And the other thing we will do is, with the second advantage, is, we're just going to gain momentum up to a 9. This is going to be something that, it's like bringing people together, like shared trauma, but also like this is a shared victory for all of us. And I think there's maybe one left. And it's shambling, and they're all looking at it. Tessa and the other Rockfall folk are looking at it, and Farina is kind of huddled. And I think that one of the other Rockfall hunters takes the time to kind of scoop up Farina and just say, like, it's okay, we've got them. And there's one still just kind of like looking around, and maybe it just points at Farina. And we're going to roll our 2 progress dice, even though I could do one more and just get it to 10 to guarantee it pretty much. But I'm going to roll my progress dice to take on a challenge and see if we overcome this. I get an 8 and a 3, of course. So it will be a weak hit. The challenge is completed at a cost. We get 1 misfortune, and we would have racked up more if our position was not favored. So there's going to be a misfortune, but we overcome it. And I think the misfortune that we're going to take here is we're going to mark our third impact as it points at Farina. And this time she's going to scream. And I think that maybe like she even like scratches at her face and like draws blood, and her scream, we're going to go wild with this. I think her scream like shatters the skull of this undead outward. And then she kind of just like slumps in the arms of this other hunter. And I'm going to mark my third stress of spirit as this final undead falls. And we, the hunters of Rockfall, look at the now unconscious body of Farina and wonder, what is it that we are really escorting here? And that's where we'll end this first session of this Ironsworn Legacies playtest. We're going to do another one next week. Sorry this came up a little late. I didn't even really put music to this episode because I just want to get it out. I wanted to play this game. We're playing it. It's really fun so far. I'm loving it. And yeah. Remind me, myself, this is me, for me in the future. We earned 2 boons for that. So we're going to talk about boons. We're going to talk about what happens when you mark all 3 boxes of an impact. And we're going to continue this story next time. Hope you're liking this. If you're interested, join the Ironsworn Discord and get yourself in on this playtest. And yeah, keep playing games.